Welcome to r/I don't work here, lady, where we share stories about folks that are mistaken for employees by irate customers. Thank you so much for subscribing, likes, and supporting in the comments. And today's first story is, I do work here, but here isn't where you think it is, sir. This is a long one, but hopefully a good one. I'm not sure if this counts as a pure I don't work here lady story, as the jerk in question was actually a guy, and technically I did work there. It's just that there wasn't the place he thought it was. This happened some years ago, but after hearing so many other people's stories, I thought it would be fun to share my own. So let me preface this by saying that I don't work in customer service. I have a technical computer job, and the social skills of my entire team combined probably almost add up to those of one normal person. And yes, I'm including myself in that number. So not only are we not supposed to talk to customers, but the company would actually prefer we stay as far away from them as possible. They even hide us in a dark corner away from everyone else, to avoid someone accidentally wandering into our cubicle block and having a confusing, awkward social experience. We generally don't talk to a lot of people outside of our team, and a few other teams that we all know really well. I'm not saying we were mean, just your usual quirky computer nerds. I do usually try to be helpful to people if I can, as long as they show even the smallest bit of respect in return. I did have a phone assigned to me, but it was essentially vestigial because no one had used phones to communicate with our team for years. They either walked over to talk to us or they emailed or pinged us on the office messaging system. In all my time working for that company, I had never actually heard my phone ring, up until that day. So when I heard a strange clanging sound, I actually looked around to try to figure out where it was coming from, before realizing it was being emitted from the dark, forgotten corner of my desk, where that useless phone was taking up space. I was so confused, because for the life of me I couldn't think of anyone who would actually call me. My coworkers looked over to see what was going on, and we exchanged perplexed looks. Tentatively, I picked it up. RG equals a rude guy. Me, hello? The man on the other end already sounded escalated, but like he was trying to keep it together, at least a little. RG, you guys need to release the hold you have on my mother's estate, right now. This only added to my conclusion, because the company I work for didn't deal in any way, shape, or form with real estate. Me, excuse me? I think you have the wrong number. RG, is this says my number? I'm even more confused now, because I can't figure out why he'd have my number. Me, yes, but we don't deal in property. We don't put liens on people's estates. Maybe you copied the number for the place you're looking for down wrong? RG, I need to speak to Sally. Does she still work there? I forget what name he actually said, so she's now dubbed Sally. Me, no one by that name works here. RG, sounding more angry now. Listen, last time I spoke to you guys, I spoke to Sally, and she gave me this number. If she doesn't work there anymore, then I need to speak to someone who can release my mother's estate. Me, we've never had anyone named Sally here. Where exactly is it that you think that you're calling? RG, you know where I'm calling, jerk. This is insert company name, and I don't appreciate being jerked around. It suddenly clicked for me what had happened. The company he named rents space in the same building that we do, but is a completely separate entity. In a twist of absolute bureaucratic nonsense, phone numbers are assigned by the building, not the companies that rent space there. When one number is no longer being used, the building reassigns it to the next person who needs it, even if they work in a completely different company. Because we'd recently expanded the amount of space we were renting, my team had been reassigned cubicle spots to give another team room to expand. This somehow had resulted in all of us getting assigned new phones and new phone numbers, and apparently I had gotten Sally's old number. I also remembered hearing from someone who did work at that company that they sometimes put liens on properties of people if they owed them a lot of money. I'm not sure exactly how this worked and why they were able to do that. I only vaguely remembered hearing about it in casual chit-chat quite a while ago. Naturally, I tried to explain to the man what I thought had happened. I figured once he understood the mix-up, he would realize his mistake and just call the company he needed to speak to. Nope, he listened to about half my explanation before just combusting into a new bout of senseless rage. RG, that makes no sense. If you have this number, you have to work for that company, so help me get this lien off of my mother's estate. In his defense, the way the building shuffled numbers around was objectively stupid. Something like this was inevitable if they were assigning numbers that had once belonged to one company to other companies. I completely understand why he was confused. What I didn't understand, however, was how stubborn and rude he was getting. Me, I can't help you. You have to get a hold of company name. RG, just look my mother's name up in your database. You can see everything Sally wrote about our last conversation. Me, I don't have access to company name's database because I don't work for them. I can't look her up. The guy had had a seething tone for some while now, and I'm pretty sure if he could punch me through the phone, he would have. But he went worryingly quiet a moment, and I could practically hear the gears in his head grinding. RG, do you work at, says the address of the building? When he said the address, he didn't include the suite number, which is how you distinguish one company address from another. So technically, yes, I did work at the address he said. Me, yes, but RG, see? His voice sounded like he just won the entitled D-bag lottery. You do work there, so help me. I was pretty irritated at this point because if he'd been listening to me, he would understand that I didn't actually work at the company he was trying to get a hold of by now. Me, I work in the same building, but I don't work for that company. This building hosts a lot of different companies. We're not connected, I can't help you. Not won't, can't. This is when he went full Karen. RG, this is the worst customer service I've ever had. Let me talk to your manager. Me, no. RG, I couldn't see him, but I was picturing him with a stunned Pikachu face. Just then. No? First, I have no obligation to work with this guy. He's not even a customer of our company. And even if he was, I have no responsibility to work with customers. In fact, my boss would consider it a massive waste of time and would get irritated if I did. Second, I was doing him a massive favor. My boss was a no-nonsense, tough-as-nails, no-soft-edges kind of woman, not at all known for being delicate with people's feelings. She would definitely have ripped him a new one and may have even made him cry. She was good at that. Getting her involved would have definitely been a mistake. If anything, I was protecting him by not letting him talk to her. But of course, he didn't get that. RG, what's your full name? I want to report you to corporate. I was done with this bull crap. There was literally nothing I could do to help him, and he'd been rude to me from the start. Me, listen, if you had an issue with something you bought at Walmart, would you go to Target to solve the problem? Because that's the equivalent of what you're doing. You're going to the wrong company to fix your issue. I don't work at company name. I don't have access to their database. There's literally nothing I can do for you because you're speaking to the wrong company. I think the analogy helped because he actually seemed to stop and think for a minute. I even got a little tickle of hope that maybe I'd gotten through to him. RG, then give me the number for that other company. Me, unfortunately, I don't have it. You'll have to look it up. RG, how? It was my turn for the surprised Pikachu face. Me, on the internet? RG, look it up for me. If you do it, you'll be able to find a special direct line or something, right? Me, Google works the same for me as it does for you, sir. At this point, I hear a strangled hacking sound behind me and turn around to see my coworkers fighting back laughter to the point of tears. Wonderful. Thanks, guys. It was at this point that this rude jerk seemed to have thought himself back out of all the progress we'd made so far. RG, you can't just refuse to help me or to let me talk to your manager. You need to look my mom up in your database. If you hadn't tried to get out of helping me, we could be done by now. Me, I still don't work for company name. That hasn't changed in the last couple of minutes. He started to curse at me, curse my gender, and call me all sorts of foul names at that point. So I hung up on him. I have no time for jerks. If he'd been less of a bully, I might have Googled the company number for him. After all, I was sitting at a computer. But he chose to try to boss me around, belittle me, and to swear at me. So all he got was hung up on. Within seconds, though, the phone rang again. So I picked it up and hung up again. When it started ringing the next time, I hung up, but left the receiver off the hook. That way he could call back to his little heart's content, and I didn't have to deal with his bullying tactics. After my colleagues got a good laugh out of the whole ordeal, we all went back to work. I quickly got wrapped up in a project for about an hour, and after finishing it, I felt like the rude guy was probably done repeatedly speed dialing my number. So I put the phone back. It rang immediately. My dude was determined. So I answered, hung up, and left my phone off the hook for the rest of the day. Just to be safe, I kept it off the hook for the whole rest of the next day as well. And thankfully, I didn't hear from the dude again. Hopefully, he figured out how to use Google to find the phone number he needed. Although if he did, I feel bad for the other company. I like to imagine he reported me to someone over there, only to be told that I do, in fact, not work for them. The second story is, not only do I not work here, but neither does anyone else. My first post on here, so be nice to me if I do it wrong. A bit of background. My house used to be the village post office, and when I say used to be, I mean over 20 years ago. We bought the property 10 years ago, by which time it had been totally converted, and no longer resembles a post office in any shape or form. The post office is now slightly further down the street, in a building that has a huge post office sign on the front, and looks nothing like my house. Different size, color, everything. My front door opens straight into the kitchen, and is rarely locked. It's a small village, and I seem to run some sort of drop-in center for my kids' friends. I was sitting eating dinner this evening with my kids, when the front door opened and in walked a lady. Me, hey, can I help you with something? As I walked towards her, forcing her backwards through the open door. Lady, yes, I have a parcel here to send, as she tries to duck round the side of me to get in. Me, pardon? You've got a parcel? Lady, yes, it's to be delivered tomorrow. Me, well, you'd best be taking it to the post office then, as I almost physically push her out of the door onto the street. Lady, well, obviously, that's why I'm here. At which point the light bulb in my head switches on. Me, I'm sorry, this isn't the post office anymore. Hasn't been for a long time. The post office is a few doors down that way. Lady, yes, very funny. Now, could you actually do what you're being paid for and allow me to send my parcel? Me, yes, if you go to the post office, which is just down there, pointing. I'm sure they'll send your parcel for you. Now, I'm gonna return to my children to finish eating my dinner. And I walked inside, closed and locked the door, while listening to her having a strop outside. By all accounts, she found the post office, sent her parcel and lodged a formal complaint against me, which gave the post office staff some entertainment for the afternoon. I'm really unsure as to what she was thinking. She's not from the village. As I say, it's a small village, and she walked into what is obviously a house, with the family sitting at the table eating when she walked in. Did she think I'd hidden the post office counter behind the fridge or something? My husband keeps wandering into the kitchen, asking me for stamps or envelopes, or various other post office type things. And the last story is how my mother got fired from a job she'd never had that I'd already quit. A recent comment reminded me of the SH-themed diner I worked at in high school. About a week after I'd bugged out of town for college, one of the servers called in sick. The manager on duty forgot I had quit and left town by over 1,000 miles. Since this was before cell phones, she called my home number, got my mother, and demanded that I come in to work the shift. My mother tried to explain that she did not work there, was not me, and I was long gone. This A-hat manager was having none of that excuse. She refused to believe my mother was not me and got very threatening about how she needed to come in or she'd get fired from a job I had already quit. Also, I'd never work in that town again. Yippee! My mother hung up on her, but the A-hat manager called back repeatedly until my mom finally agreed to come in, just to make the phone stop ringing as she was expecting an important call. A few hours later, the manager called back to curse her out and fire her for not appearing for her shift. She never did figure out she'd been talking to my mother the entire time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you guys so much for watching the video all the way to the end. Have a great day!